Welcome, everyone. It's 4:11, and it is, of course, Fish Easy here, welcoming every one of you fish tubers out there. I want to thank you all for joining. As a few that are already signed up, waiting in line, and I appreciate that very much. We're taking a look here at the first business, and that is looking at some fish scatterers, egg scatterers. These fish are catfish, and we don't probably always think of them as egg scatterers, but they are. And they have scattered their eggs, and the problem is if you scatter eggs, they're hard to find. So today I thought I'd break away and kind of chomp on a little subject that I wanted to hit briefly. Let's see who's in the house. Any comments? Yes, hello, Roman. Welcome. And Reggie DeAndrade. Yes, you made it on time finally. Yes. I know it's early for you out in California. 3 hours difference. I'm kind of used to that big difference, having having lived in both sides of the country. So thank you for coming. Today we're going to just take a little feature look at some of these projects I have, and also little updates here and there, and answer some questions. First of all, thank you so much for joining us as we get into it. I've got a list of things to cover today, and we won't be very long today because I am getting over some health issues, and so I've been out sick most of the week. And so that has been a real hardship. And you know what happens in a fish room when someone's not feeling well, and that is basically they go on minimalistic care. So these are Lucipinus. These catfish were ones we just saw, very small. We're going to take a look at something today, and that is how to get these fry. They're not laid on a rock like you would see typically with cichlids, rams, and others kinds of fish. You would typically get these fish only after they've laid the eggs and scattered the eggs all over the place. So how do you get them before the fish get to them? Well, I get them out of this tank. It's an interesting tank. Just to give you some heads up, it is a tank with the adults. You see them in the back there, always swimming about, very active. Right now they sense something up here, my presence. They're usually quite timid. They're extremely spooky. But notice they're in a tank with barbs. Other barbs, I have some African banded barbs and some Hexazona barbs in this tank growing out, and they all get along fine. But the egg trap is what we see here. The egg trap, I'm going to take that apart, and we're going to take a look at it today. In fact, we're kind of excited to see if there's anything in it, because apparently the Lucipinus do follow a schedule that's lunar, and right now we're coming close to the full moon here. So in 2 more days, I believe it will be full moon, and so we're approaching full moon, and I want to see if there's any eggs in there. I haven't checked in a few days. I haven't been able to, and we could even have fry in there. I don't know. But before we dig into it, just want to take a peek at this egg trap as it sits outside. I have 2 of them, actually. This one is, hello, let's see who's joining us. Delta Charlie, thank you. Good afternoon. Notice that this one here is, in fact, a piece of material, covered material, that is from Barbecue Grill. So you buy these mats for barbecuing. They're made out of fiberglass. So what's in the trap are just plain marbles, and the marbles serve as a support, and also a way for eggs to fall through and be unattainable by anything in the tank. So I had these marbles because this is one way that you do a trap. Most people are familiar with the idea of taking egg scatterers, throwing a bunch of marbles in the bottom, and then going ahead and spawning the fish on top. I've done that. I've tried that a few times. It's a mess getting the marbles out with the fry in the water column. That's tough. But I have a much improved method now using the grill. This is Fiberglass Grill. I'll have to I'll post a link to how you buy this stuff. In fact, I think I have yeah, I do. Right over here, I keep a supply, and this is the way it comes. This is the barbecue mat right itself. Let me see if I can pull this out. I can pull two of them out at the same time. Huh. They come in these big squares or rectangles, and there's several pieces inside each one, and you buy it fairly cheaply. It's not that expensive, and you can use it for so many different things. I don't know if you realize, you just cut it with scissors, and you can cut it to shape, and it holds its shape. And for example, last week I discussed with you the box filters, and I wanted to mention something else about those box filters that includes this material. So here is the box filter from last week. I don't know if you remember, it was all green. I changed it out, but look on top of the floss. You'll see a piece of this fiberglass. I use a chunk of it. It doesn't have to be cut perfect. It's just a piece, you can see it inside, and it's just a piece to hold down the floss, because otherwise when you throw it in there, it sometimes floats to the top and it kind of clogs. And to me, it kind of reduces the effectiveness of the box filter. So by using this fiberglass on top, it just sort of springy kind of hold in place kind of thing. Looks like some people are following me around. I feel like wherever I go in the room, there's eyes looking at me. I wonder why. So this fiberglass material is very handy. I also have pieces cut already. I'm going to put that down and show you a piece that is cut. This square here is cut perfect size for a bottom of a 5-gallon. So as you can see here, in these 5 gallons, I will use this piece. It's actually not exactly the size of the inside of the glass. It's actually cut slightly bigger so that it will bulge a little bit. So I'll put it in the bottom. And then, of course, just laying it on the bottom doesn't do any good, right? It's got to be off the bottom a little bit. So in this case, for my tanks, I just use spacers. So I'm going to show you what my spacers look like. These are spacers. They're just cut pieces of PVC, about an inch, and I just go get a bunch of them, and I just place these down on the bottom of the tank, a bunch of them like this, and put them on the bottom of the tank first, and then I put that grill down on top, and it supports enough inches off the bottom so that any eggs laid will automatically be safe. And so that's how I bred the Odessa Barbs. Oh, and you may notice our female discus is over here by herself. I got some news for you on that. She's over here recuperating a little bit because she was getting beat up by her mate, and she was really looking sorry. That's because last Sunday they went down on eggs again. And so if we look at the discus, daddy's got babies, but he was very, very mean to his mate. I don't know if you can see the babies. They're floating around right now. They're swimming around looking for their mama. And I think they're going to have to try to get attached to their daddy, because mama's not in with them, because he was beating the tar out of her, and I just couldn't. He was taking care of the eggs all right. Right after they spawned, he just started messing her up. So I had to save her. Save her for a future day. Yeah, she would have been a great mom in this case, but he was giving her scars on the sides. You see those chunks? I don't know if you can see them right there. You look at the chunks he was tearing out of her side. So that's no good. So basically, That's why she's in there. So anyway, back to the breeding basics. These are the bottom spacers, and then I go and put the grill on the bottom, and then I put some floating Java plant, floating plants, everything on top, and the parents go on top, and away they go. So water conditions being just right. Hello Malik, hello, and Christopher, Ray Aquatics too, and new local Austin. Thank you for joining us today. We're taking a look at this material. We're looking at this box filter and grill how I use the grill material in various ways. This one just to hold down the floss. But getting back to our egg trap, today's egg trap shows a deep-sided bowl. Now the bowl itself is got like, let's see, it looks like 1.5 inches sides. It stands up a little bit. I like that because it gives me some volume. And so what we're going to do is I have 2 of these, and one's inside the tank and one's outside the tank. This one's cleaned and ready to go, and all I need to do is really replace the one that's in there. We're gonna play a little game right now and see, does anybody think we have anything in the egg trap? Anybody think we have anything? I don't know. This is going to be surprise. So without getting too much excitement, without the results, let's get the results. Okay, so what I do is basically I'm going to clear away some land here. I keep a flat bowl here for my measurements, for my pulling out the eggs. And I think this is going to be like a two-handed job, so I'm not sure how I'm going to show this and hold the camera too. This is something I haven't worked out yet. So let's see. Maybe I can put the camera back a little bit, and maybe the whole thing can be seen if I do it like this. I don't know. Oh, I'm covering the camera. All right. Okay. I don't think this is going to work. Okay. Question, can you see anything? No, you can't see anything. Let's see. Can you see anything? Can you see anything? I don't know how to show this. Let's see here. This is tricky. I've got an issue. All right, dropping everything, of course. All right, so maybe I can I got an idea. I'm just gonna prop up the, I'm just gonna prop up the tablet here. Yeah, here we go. This is a little bit better. Somewhat better, I guess. A little bit, not a whole lot. Got these issues today. Sorry for that. Now, I want you to see what I do because it's important. I learned this from Greg Sage. Greg Sage has some great videos on the Lucipennis. Oh, okay, finally did it. Found a spot that you can see what I'm doing and going to do, okay? So I take off my watch because my hands will get wet. And I'm going to grab a towel and we're going to see what I can do here. Now, take the bowl. I'm going to reach in. Actually, you can't see the inside. Yeah, you can. A little bit. Okay, I'm going to just reach in. I'm going to pull off the top. Now, the top is a pot in which you can see there's a hole in the side. And I put my hand in the water and it feels cold. This tank doesn't have a heater. And today is an exceptionally cold day. We're having a very cold day. But the catfish for some reason do very well without the heat. They don't need it so hot. So, okay. So then I just pull this out straight up and pull it out of the tank. All right. There we go. Now, if you can see this, what I'm about to do. I don't know if you can see it or not, but almost can see it. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to take my fingers and just hold everything down. Okay, and I'm just going to drain the water by rushing it out because the eggs are not sticky. They're loose. I do this. Now the water's gone, but there may be some more, so I just kind of take some water and put it back in, just a little bit off the top, and give it another tilt, and I do it like that, and I look inside to see if we got anything. And let me grab my not my magnifying glass, but rather I'm going to grab a flashlight. And then I look into the solution, and it looks like we got a dud. Nothing in there. So would have been exciting if we had gotten something. I'll show you what it looks like. Anyways, it looks like you would see if there was something in here to be seen. You would see we've seen them before in the past, swimming around like that, but you would see the eggs, or you even see some hatch fry, because they hatch only in 24 hours. So it's really quick. But I don't see anything. And usually there's a lot of them. So when they do spawn, they have a lot. Okay, so in this case, what I do is I put back the same one. It's got a lot of this messy muck in it that's kind of gotten pushed around into the egg trap, but that's all right. I'm going to just let most of it go back in. And you're probably wondering, well, why not keep it clean? Because the little fry, when they hatch, they'll have something to mess around and muck around with, and that will be a good thing. If you just kind of keep everything so sterile, it might not be such a great thing. So I'm just going to replace the same one. If there had been fry and eggs in this one, I would be replacing it with the clean one so that I can do a thorough job in getting out the other one. So I put it back in place and put this on top. You notice, see how I'm going to give you an idea what it looks like, the hole there. And the fish can just go in and out of this hole. It's got some blackbeard algae growing in there. I just kind of leave it go. It doesn't seem to hurt anything. Fish seem to don't mind it. And I'll just check back in another day or two. And eventually one day I'll get a spawn, and these fish will spawn on a monthly basis, and one day I'll get another batch like this. So I'm doing quite well on the Lucipinis. So there's our first egg trap discussion. Let's see. Thank you, everyone. I know it's been a tough week for a lot of us, especially me. I've been sick this week, so for me it's been a challenge to keep up on things. Hi, yes, welcome back. And how's everybody doing? I see comments. Eggs, the eggs look like tiny little beads. They're clear and kind of, but what's interesting about them in this particular instance, they are not sticky. So that's the key to being able to get them out of the egg trap when you're using an egg trap such as this one. Our discussion today, I wanted to include some discussions on egg traps that are also a little different than that. Maybe you're familiar with barbs and how they like to spawn. Hold on one second. I need my. What did I do with my holder? Okay, we had it in our hand a minute ago. There it is. Hold on. Okay. That was there. Sorry for the shaking. Not a pleasant experience, I know. And I'm really hoping my battery holds up for today. Well, we won't have a long session anyway because of the way I'm feeling and the neglect that I've given the fish room. And speaking of neglect, that is probably what will happen when somebody does get sick. Somebody gets ill in your family. Maybe there won't be an opportunity to care for your fish. So what do? The sad news is the spawn that we had last week, the D1365 group of rams, unfortunately didn't make it. They didn't survive the illness that I had, and so they didn't get the proper care. So sometimes things get a little neglected. You go in and you feed your fish and make a water change or two, but when you don't feel well, you don't feel well. And so sometimes life goes on. And what's very interesting is that the fish, these same pair of spawners, the D pair, spawned again last Sunday, just 5 days after our 1365. So we have a pair that's now, or another batch that's dated on the 8th of January. So we do have them coming up, but right now they're not free swimming yet. So there's a second chance I have. So the same pair on the same rock on the same location. In fact, they're up there now, just doing really well. So we'll take a look at that probably next week. We'll show you some of the progress. Any questions? I'm glad everybody is here today. Now, just to share another egg trap, another methodology of using an egg trap is something I've done with bigger barbs. And what you do is you create a bowl, and I'm going to show you the plastic bowl that I used. In fact, let me turn the camera around. We'll just, so you're not staring at my face so much. We're going to take a look at this bowl here. What I did was I found this particular bowl very helpful. It's just a plastic tub that food came in, and you can put some marbles in the bottom or something to weigh it if you want, but I had used a plain piece of that grill. In fact, here it is. I use this grill. I use it for a lot of stuff, and I fit it inside like that and tied to this Java moss. You can also use yarn, and so in the thumbnail for this particular live stream, you'll notice there's a picture of the Kinzia Rohani, and they're a bigger barb, and so in the corner of the 90-gallon tank we had this particular egg trap, and we just sat it there, and there's nothing else in the tank. It's a bare tank, more or less. So then the fish start getting excited, and when they do get excited, the temperature's right, and the feeding's right, and it's morning or whatever it is, it's going to trigger them to get active. They're going to see this clump of Java moss, and they will start spawning over it. So the idea was that this keeps all the other fish from getting down in there, and it's pretty tight fitting. And then you can just pull it out when you're done and wait 3 days to see if it got any frag. So that's an egg trap. Now, what we're going to talk about also is a very special future project, and this future project is a way to spawn egg scatterers, maybe on the smaller side. I have in this fish room a couple of little breeding projects that I want to dig into. One of those being Tinwinny, Danio. So I have gold ring Danios. I have 2 males and 4 females. So before the tank is prepared, and I will step it through with you what I'm going to do for that particular project. I separated the males and females. So I have them in the 7.5 gallon here behind. 4 females in this one and 2 males in the bottom one. And it's interesting because these tanks I don't really even have to feed, because as I'm putting in the brine shrimp into these breeder boxes, there's always some that get through the weir, and so these tanks in the back are constantly getting fed a little bit of brine shrimp several times a day. So I was worried about my Danios because they were in with some other tanks and they were with some other fish, and they were getting out-competed by the slightly bigger Odessa barbs and Hexazona barbs and so forth. But then when I put them in here, they started getting all the food they want. I also like the Daniels because they don't bother the shrimps. The shrimps are, I have some red cherry shrimps in there, and they're just breeding profusely. And I don't even feed them, actually. I think that they're eating the brine shrimp as well. Somehow the algae and everything in these tanks are doing very well for the shrimp, and a mono shrimp are in there too. But they're getting fed by the constant overflow of these breeder boxes. But they're getting plump, they're getting healthy, they're looking sharp, vibrant, colorful, and now they're getting ready to breed. So how are we going to do it? What I'm going to do is, let me demonstrate to you. I think the best way to demonstrate it is to actually show you what I have in mind. This particular location is going to be a spot for the egg scattering trap, the egg trap tank. So I got this idea from Michael Monge, or depending how, if you're Spanish or not. Michael is a fellow barb breeder. He's in, I believe, Ohio. And I started watching his videos a few years ago, and I stumbled across one of the tanks that he had. It was in an actual video at Dan's Fish, who had come and done a tour video. So I really admonish you to check out this fascinating 10-gallon tank that he uses to breed egg scatterers. This particular tank was not created by Michael, but he says that he got it from a friend or a fish person, fish keeper. And this particular tank is something that is visible on this tour. So I took the link to this tour that I'm talking about, that Dan did over at Michael Monge's, and he calls it, I think the name of the video is the Barb Whisperer. So at Michael's place, he focuses on this tank with some cherry barbs in it, and I put the link down below in this particular live stream today, so you can jump right over to it, but you can also jump right into where that tank is, because I put the link to where it is in the video, not so you don't have to watch the whole thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with this tank, and I got this tank here, and what we're going to do is I've got some material to work with. I've got some sponge filters. I went and bought this lift tube sponge filter from Aquarium Direct, and so here's the idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up this tank here, and I'll have to show it to you next week when I see what progress I've done. It's going to have a nursery side, a left side, and it's going to have a right side. So let me just take a marker and give you an idea. So there's going to be a divider, and it's going to be something like this. And we're going to put a divider in here, but it's not going to go all the way to the bottom. This side is where the breeders will be, and I'm going to put breeders in this side. And what we're going to do is we're going to level it off the bottom by maybe an inch. More, it's going to be less space than what I drew here, but this gives you the idea. And so here's the fish. The breeder fish are over here, right? And this flooring is going to be just what I showed you a minute ago. It's going to be the fiberglass netting with spacers, so it's going to be off the bottom. So then on this barrier, I'm going to put a solid barrier with a lift tube on this side. So water is going to be pumped from the left side over to where the breeders are. And then this side here is going to form a return. So the return is going to come over to here, and then it's going to have another, probably after the lift tube, it's going to have the ability, it's going to be supporting here somehow. I'm going to have to either do it with silicone or maybe spacers or whatnot. The solid piece, and I have a filter, thanks to Malik, and it's going to act as a matin filter. So we're going to have a matin filter here, and this will be our matin filter. And we're going to pull water. It's going to be pulled, I'm going to use a different color for that, so you see what's going to happen. Dropping things. Okay. Get a different color. So water is going to be going this way. It's going to flow out over to here, into this, past this, actually through the matin filter, and then it's going to be pumped through the tube over. So it's going to use air. So there you go. That's the concept. So this is our designed flow. Now, what is the reason for doing all this? When I could just do what I just showed you a minute ago, put a flat grill on the bottom, some spacers. What's the point? The point is this. Using a method in which the fry, as they hatch or they begin to move or they begin to wiggle, they usually at first aren't free swimming. They're usually just kind of jerking about, and we want them to kind of get pulled into the flow, into a place where there's no fish, where I can use a flashlight, I can look into this section and look for fry, watch for fry. When I see fry, I can siphon them out and raise them up in another little 2.5 gallon or a breeder box or whatever. I can siphon them out and I can actually raise those fry. But the parents won't be able to eat them. Also, the problem with the tin winnies, I've tried it many times, I've not been successful raising any tin winnies. Up until now, I really need to get this under my belt. I would like to see these danios have offspring, but when you first put them together, you may not get offspring. It may be a week before they decide to breed. It may be just after they become accustomed to their tank. So putting them in a new tank, they're all getting adjusted, and then I just guess that they spawned, I pull them out, and I get nothing. It's like hit and miss. Hit and miss. It's like, that's not going to do it. Not around here anyway. I want to be more specific. So I want to see fry. I'm going to leave them in here until I do see fry. Then I know there's been a spawning. And at that point, there might be a lot of fry. If there's a lot of fry, you could then just actually pull them out and leave the fry in here. It's possible to do that. Or I could use this in a way to just leave them in here to continuously keep them happy, feeding them live foods, and then they'll just be ready when they're ready, as opposed to ready when I'm ready. And that, I think, is going to be the key, because I believe that they're spawning, but I don't believe I've timed it just right. I don't believe I've hit it just right so that when they're spawning, I know it. It's kind of hard to tell because the eggs are so small, they're so translucent. So this is the concept of the egg trap tank, and I'm going to try using this one in the weeks to come, and I'm looking forward to seeing. Maybe next week I'll show you if there's been any progress on it, and each step of the way, and one day I'll just probably sit down and kind of iron it out, and then we'll make improvements as need be. Let me see if you've had any questions. I've been talking a lot. Hopefully there have been some. Yeah, Roman, yes, mine, just to answer your question about the Synodontis swimming in the light, mine too are very, very active at night. They do come out when it's darker, but somehow recently they've just been a little bit more active in the when the light's out. I don't know why that is, but I think it might be the feeding. They may know when it's food time. New local Austin. Have I done this before? I have not made an egg trap like this one before. No, I haven't done one exactly like that. So this is quite. I'm interested in knowing how it works. Just so you know, Delta Charlie also, not just with the gold ring Danios, but also I'm also looking at, excuse me, oh, hold on. Okay, something's, how does that work? Can't zoom out. Okay, that was scary. So I'm also gonna apply it to a couple of other fish I have in here. I'd also like to see if a pair of hexagonas, because the hexagonas are also a fish that I put in a tank, and if I just take them out expecting them to lay eggs the next day or the day after that, sometimes it takes 3 to 5 days being together, and then they start laying. So what I have been doing to breed hexagonas is I will put like 2 males and 3 females in a 5-gallon tank and leave them there for 5 days. I just leave them there for 5 days. And at the end of 5 days, I will then take them out. 5 more days will have to go by, and then I'll start to see fry if I got any. And I have on occasion gotten several sizes of fry, so it tells me that they bred several times during the 5 days. But if I just put them in 24 hours, take them out, forget it. Now the Odessas are different. The Odessas, you put them together, they get busy, and they're excited to see their mate, and boom, you just watch them breed all day long, and I don't have any issues with them, so they don't need that kind of an arrangement. But I also want to try this egg trap with 2 other species I have. One is Cardinal Tetras. I have a nice sized lot of Cardinal Tetras below me. Also hidden in one of those 7.5 gallons is 4 small green neons. 1 male and 3 females. That's all I have left in my fish room. I used to have probably, over a dozen. But I think that's all I have left. And that is a system like this, because as you can see, it's not a very big tank. It might be just perfect size for some green neons that like to be secluded, and I can just set that tank in the back of the shelf there and just let them be, leave them alone, feed them baby brine shrimp, and start dropping the pH, and just watch and see if I get any fry. So first thing to do is, of course, get a working system, and we're going to give that a try. I think it's something that can be easily done by many people, and once I get it working, I think I'll probably produce a video on it, and then people can come and visit Let's see what I've done with this small 2.5 gallon. It's a lot smaller than the one that Michael Monhe has, but I think it's really neat, worth the effort. So I really advise you to click on that, see that part of the video where he demonstrates how his barbs breed in that one. Thank you, Delta Charlie. It is a lot of planning and tank space needed. I have to say we've got different little projects going on, and some projects sit on the back burner. Those Synodontis lucipennis sat in the back burner for 2 years. That's because when I bought them, they were very small, and they take a long time to mature. So if you're interested in breeding these catfish, buy young ones now, put them in a tank, and forget about them. Just take care of them. They pretty much take care of themselves. I bought 10 of them originally from the wet spot in Oregon, and I had them 2 years plus, and then not one died. They're very hardy little fish, always busy, moving around. They like hard water, so there's never any issues. Those fish are hardy. And in fact, of all the little ones, once they're in the free swimming eating baby brine shrimp, I have never seen a dead one. Those piles that you just looked at, it wouldn't surprise me if I didn't lose any of them before they get to a marketable size. But 2 years went by, and then finally I decided to put the egg trap in there, leave it in there for a while, so it was like probably in there 6 months before I even checked it the first time. Why? Well, as you say, Delta Charlie, it was a lot of planning and tank space, and I was busy with other breeding projects at the time. They were breeding, and I saw the activity, the males chasing the females, and they were going back and forth at times, and I said, I think they're breeding. I think they're breeding. I better look at this, So that's what I did. I said, look, they're probably breeding. Let me investigate. And the first time I opened the egg trap, I had babies that were swimming around in the egg trap. Eggs were in there. Hey, Bernard. Hello, I got the methylene blue. I just ordered it. I got it on Amazon. You can just order it on Amazon. I got a bottle of it like this. Answer your question. Yeah, order this methylene blue. I know some chemicals are not available here in Canada, but sometimes you can just order something and sometimes it just comes. That's all I can say. So I was thinking that maybe it was time to start really seriously after I got that first little group of fry. And that's when I definitely said, these guys are breeding, so I started checking regularly, and that's when we started getting bumper crop results with the breeding. So they do seem to breed in cycles, so right now there doesn't seem to be this much going on this month, this lunar month. So if I don't get any more fry, I think what I could do is probably, I'm going to check the temperature. I think that was a tip-off when I put my hand in there and thought it was kind of cold. So it could be that the temperatures have dropped a little too cold for them. If I throw in a heater and just bump up a few degrees, that might be without. My gold ring Danios are in tanks with heaters because those are the heaters heating the tanks that are taking care of the ram fry. But that doesn't mean that's ideal temperature. So when it comes to breeding, they might want a little cooler. I'll need to look up exactly what would be ideal for them. Since I've never done them before, I'm going to have to experiment a little bit. I have a small heater. That's something I didn't mention. I'll put a heater in the side where the in somewhere in I have to fit. I have a small 25-watt heater, and that's only so I can control the temperature to be exact and to keep it constant at a certain temperature that I want. But I'm going to bump up the Lucipinis temps maybe just a couple degrees and see if maybe that will be stimulant enough. Because maybe it's just a little too cold. We should have had some fry today. So, speaking of egg traps, have I covered everything that I wanted to cover today? Well, let me just double check the list of things I promised to show you. I did promise to show you something. And specifically, I wanted to show you the tank down below where I've thrown a batch of electric blue rams. And I want you to see how they're doing. Hold on one second. Okay. I had to make the glass clean because, first of all, it was too filthy. Okay, they're over here. Let's take a look at these puppies. They're growing nicely. I have them in this 20-gallon long. It's probably about 30 fish, and they're only about ½ inch in length. But they're thriving in this tank, and it's not overcrowded. It's full of plants. It's just tons and tons of plants. It's got Java moss and hornwort, and these fish, you can see colors starting to form on them, and I like that because they're already really starting to look good. And I'm going to probably pick out of this group a couple pair for myself, and they're just outstanding. I feed them baby brine shrimp also. I throw in this tank. This is a tank also that has baby L134s. There's one in the corner right there. These juvies are 1 year old. There's another one in the back there along the back of the filter, right behind that ram. You see him back in there? Can you see him? Okay. Yeah, so I wanted to just show you these electric blues. They're starting to show their blue hue, and they've got little orange, yellowish tinge to them also, and they're going to be a striking group. I have a bunch of them behind me as well, much smaller. We want to just kind of take a look at these. These are also electric blues, but these are younger, and they're just starting to show some color, but these are doing quite well. The other tanks of rams are doing well too, German blues. But I need to move some out. Today I'm going to do that. I would have done it before the live stream, but I had no energy to do it. As you can see down below, there's 2 boxes that have to move. These fish are way overdue. That box there is stuffed full, and that box there is stuffed full, and it's time. They got to get out of there. And I got a tank for them. I was able to get this tank up here. There's an empty tank right there, and so today I'll just put the box on this tank, and when the water is pretty much the same, I'll dump them in, and they'll go together in that larger tank. So I'm looking forward to that. Yes. So thank you very much for joining us. Red Laser, you have a question. Is he due to the filter fiber material? The 3 arrows would be a lower flow area to collect the fry while resting. Can aerate the tank as usual with this system. Okay. I think you are referring to, if I just understand you correctly, you're referring to this, the arrows. Now, yes, what isn't really shown, you have airlift going up the tube. You see in the middle, there's the tube I've drawn. That's air. Also, I'll probably put a small, I have these tiny, I have very tiny sponge filters that also I use for these kinds of situations. Let me see if I can just pull one out. I have one handy here. I used to have a couple of them real handy, but you know how that goes. They get very, very easy. I have 3 or 4 of them around here. They're tiny little sponge filters, and they will fit. They're not much bigger than that, and they go, they're the tiniest ones you can get on the market. And I might just put one in there. But I don't think with the flow there's going to be a particularly big issue with not sufficient flow. But you're right, in one side there's supposed to be a sponge filter, but the matten filter also works to prevent the fry from going too far from the left. Okay, and let's see, Manjong Jiggy, welcome. I'm so glad you could join us today. You have a question. When do you start culling the ones that can't swim and the vertical swimmers? How's your culling process? Well, it's interesting. I have a hard time fishing out a particular fish that has an issue. Like if I see one fish in a group or a box full of fish, you know, like let's say for example, we're looking at these right here in the middle box, you see? I've noticed that when I stick a net in or even a turkey baster, they suddenly jump off the bottom, and they're hard to find, and so you can't be sure you got the right one. So I just let them grow a little bit along with the others, and in the end, I've noticed that the fish that are deformed, if there is one, there's usually a couple. If there's a couple fish that just aren't formed, they usually die out on their own. I have noticed that they don't last and they can't keep up with the rest, and I think that's part of nature. And nature is just such that it's sort of survival of the fittest, and so the fittest do survive. And I rarely have ever seen one that isn't the fittest survive. And so eventually, when they get to the point where I'll start seeing, like, let's say in this tank behind me. Let's just take a look here. So, for example, I'm zoomed in too much here. Okay, in this tank, they're all pretty much good in size. You'll find there might be a tiny, tiny, tiny one. So you look in the middle and you see this tiny, 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 tiny one, and I classify them as like a no grower. They don't grow. It turns out that they tend to be the first to die off, and I don't know what's going to happen to them, but I don't really have to go in there with a net trying to figure out, because they'll dart away, and I don't have to do much. And then by the time I'm getting to the point where it's time for sale, as you can see here, all of these fish, all of them, all of these fish are looking really pretty much the same size. And they're all good. And by the time they reach here, there are no small ones with them. And there's none with issues. So I don't think it's too big of a deal. It looks like I think they might be a little hungry. I've cut back on a little bit of their feed because I think that they were getting a little too much. And here's another view. Here's one that, for example, no, it's hard to tell. He's on the bottom, but he's just, I think, you see how they all zoom to the top? Oh, you can't see for the glare, can you? Okay, well, anyway, I was hoping to show you. Oh, from last week, I did get a question about the strainer at the back. You see, remember when I said I can just drain this one so quickly? There's the strainer. It's on the end of the drop-off. Hey, Fishimon64, welcome to join us. And as you can see, there is some, that's easily taken out, but as it goes to the back, as you can see, it goes to the back of the tank. It just gets sucked out when I turn the valve and the water begins to drain. It goes out that strainer, all the detritus. And so this bottom, you can see, basically is quite clean. These fish are doing quite well. Yeah. One of the things about I think these are doing well because there's not as many, and so I'm going to not I'm going to focus sometimes on quality and having less fish in the tanks, and I think that will do a better job for everyone. Hey, Andrew Frazier has joined us. Thank you, appreciate it. We're going to be wrapping this up soon. If there's any more questions, I'm getting a little tired. I've had COVID the early part of this week, so I've been out sick and just unable to keep up on things, and so I'm kind of energy level is very, very low right now. So I'm going to have to cut that down, but that'll give you the answer to a couple of the questions. You saw the discus. Did you see any babies swimming around? I did see quite a few. See Daddy. Is there any on Daddy yet? I don't think they found Daddy. I think they're swimming around. There's one right above him. They're clustering in different places. I see some. There's one right above right at the top of that tube. See several of them. There's one. Another one coming up. Little babies are zipping around. You see them. I don't know how many. Is like a good 20, 30 more in this batch, but I don't know if they're going to find Daddy. They need to find Daddy soon to say, hey, are you my daddy? And they find this big orange thing is where the food is. Hopefully they'll find him. Well, that's going to be it for today. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody taking a moment to hit the like button and to say give a question or two. I always appreciate that very much. It's been a trying week, and I'm just now getting back to where I feel strong enough to attend to some of these tanks and give them the better care than they had been getting, at least this week. So that's something to always keep in mind, that we have a contingency. So what happens when you get sick or when something happens to you? Who knows what to do on keeping things going. And if a spawn or two gets missed, or if something doesn't happen right and you lose a fish or two, it's just part of the process. Unfortunately, it's part of the difficulties of the fish room. So I really appreciate all of you chiming in today. Looks like we have 14 and some 12 thumbs up. That's really great, and I thank you so much for taking the time to drop in on our fish episode and learning something about the egg traps. I'm excited about our project, and I really wanted to share it with you kind of in concept before we did it, so you can kind of get an enthusiasm for what's the end goal, or the end process. If you haven't seen my video that I just put out on the breeding the blue-eye rainbow fish, my fricatas have been producing, and I got some fry earlier this week, and so just to show you what that looks like, the fricatas are down here, and so I've got some, I'm in the wrong camera. Here we go. There's the fricatas and a mop. And I got one male and 3 females. And if you're wondering why I take that back. 1 female and 3 males. And it works out really good that way. And they're producing because out of the first 2 mops, I put them in this tank right here. And another little project, the mops went in there. And if you look at the surface. Let me see if I can see them. They're very hard to see. Oh, those Odessas behind are making it impossible. They're in the tank behind this one. Well, looking down on the surface, I sometimes can see. Oh, I see quite a few. Wow. See them? I can see them. I had no idea there were this many. This is news to me because I've been so sick I've neglected them. I've just been throwing some paramecia in here. It's the only thing I've fed them. I've got, I better throw some more in there. Wow. So, looks like a nice little batch, and that's just from 2 mops. So 2 weeks worth. So I'll probably keep throwing mops in there for another week. And then another batch of Ficatus will be up on the way. Those are, I really encourage you to check out my video on how to breed those. And it was put out a week ago. And give it a thumbs up if you're interested in that sort of thing. It's very helpful. It was a actual, I'm embarrassed to say it, but it was one of my actual videos that I started about 2 years ago. It was one of those videos that I shot and then was in the middle of editing, and then it got shelved, and then it just never got resurrected until recently. I said, you know, I got to get that out of here. I've already done the video shooting, and so I pushed it out to get it out there, and I've got a lot of footage of other events and fish too that I will just find time when I get a chance and put out a video from time to time. So aside from my weekly fish room questions and answers, I hope that is going to be helpful to all of you. Oh, wow. Thank you, Roman. Thank you, Roman. Thank you for... Andrew, I do not have black rams. I wish we had this discussion on the live streams in the past, looking for black rams in Canada. They're hard to come by, and they don't breed true from what I've gathered so far. So if I were to get some, I can see that it's not a big production like German blues. It would be hard to get more black rams. You get some, and then it's going to be only a small percentage of the output is going to be truly black rams. So I'm anxious to find some quality fish. If you hear about any quality fish, please let me know. Keep me informed. And Mangong, I'm sorry to hear that you're intubated for so long. I have been inoculated, or I should say the word is vaccinated. And so my symptoms were very mild, although I was tested positive earlier this week. I know for sure it was an unfortunate event. I'm pretty sure I know where I got it. I broke my tooth, and I had to go into the dentist to have them pull the tooth, and that was last week. And then 5 days later, bam, symptoms. So it was one of those things that it couldn't have been avoided. I did everything I could to avoid that, and that's what happened. So we all sometimes, and we're doing our best not to pass it. Of course, my wife has it really bad, much worse than I do. Everybody is treated differently. So, but thank you so much, Hatchery Man. I appreciate your thoughts and your positive words, and thank you, Smallest Fish Room. Yes, you're the one that's up north of me. And yes, if you're working on the black rams, great. I'll be at your door as soon as you have some available. And we know about Australia. I watch our dear friend Nick, I should say, Nick in Keeping Fish Simple, and his buddy there talk about their rams all the time, and it's just too bad they're on the opposite end of the world. The globe on the other side, that's kind of hard to get to, and he's just as trapped. He can't send his fish out, and you know, everybody wants them, and we would love to have some, and it's just kind of really sad that way. So we have to work together in our localities. So we're not far. I'm only 1 hour from the Buffalo border, so that's not far from the United States. I have picked up fish from the U.S. and then brought them up to my home, that has worked, and also I'm sure that in the future, when there's less restrictions, we'll be able to get fish back and forth. Thank you so much, Delta Charlie. Thank you, Aqua Malik. Thank you. Yes, Nick is the one who's. Yeah, yeah. You know, as dentists, you gotta you hate the pain and you hate the situation, but you can't live without them either. You know, it's one of those. Well, anyway, you know what I mean. Thank you all, and have a great weekend. And all I can say now is thank you very much, and please keep it real.